Two more beer.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Alternative Blacks podcast. I hope everything is working well and that you can hear us. Today, we're going to talk about how Virginia is for lovers, and more specifically, beer lovers, which is us. If you were with us last time, you saw that Chris has had a very special birthday. He's already officially into 30, but now he's 31, so like there's no going back from here.
There's no going back. I had the opportunity at some point.
But
30-year-olds too.
We had the opportunity. Could you imagine at 30, you're like, you know what? Let's go to 20 again. Like, I'll just be fresh out. Like, I'll be towards the end of college. It was bullshit, but like, let me just get one more try.
If you but seriously though, if you had that experience from 20 to 30 and then went back,
that'd be nuts. Like, it's so tough because so much happened from 20 to 30. It's almost like there was 10 years worth of time, or like almost like a decade.
Almost like a decade, yeah.
And, I think there might be a lot of people out there that would say, you know what, let me get another go at this. However, I'm not sure if things ended up differently. If I went on a couple of different courses, I guess it's butterfly effect, right? Like, do I end up here with Hannah? And I don't think that's something I'm like willing to risk.
I agree. I fully agree. Because I do think if I went back and, did things differently in school, who knows if I would have even been in the Reading area after college.
Right.
Probably not. So everything worked out.
Yeah. I mean, looking outside of even like our personal like relationships and like some of our personal life shit. I mean, I guess it all ends up being personal because if things worked out differently, we wouldn't be sitting here doing the show.
It's true. Yeah. I mean,
there'd be no lagging. Like, I wouldn't be lagging.
Things would be so different.
We could potentially have a very crisp stream if we did things differently, and that's not something I want.
That's true. I do prefer a more aged stream. I don't know. I tried.
But talking about streaming, I'm not lagging. Well, I am lagging, but I'm not drinking a lager. And while this isn't crisp, I am drinking a Pilsner.
I hate everything you just said. Is it a Love City?
It is. It's Hype Track Czech Pilsner. Czech style Pilsner made from floor malted Bohemian Pilsner malt and Czech Saaz hops. Hype Track is supremely drinkable with light bready, biscuity malt body complemented by earthy, spicy hop character. And before I go into this beer, I do have a question because I saw that you had checked in Naked Elf, which might be what you're drinking. It doesn't look like it, but is it?
It is not.
Okay. So, Naked Elf, I saw you were checking that in, and I was like, oh, are you pre-gaming the show? And you said, one beer isn't pre-gaming, which then led me to think about this. Is 2 beers pre-gaming? Because that's exactly how many I had before this. And if not, how many beers does it take until 1 is pre-gaming?
This is a philosophical question. I feel like it has to do with ABV intake if you're pre-gaming.
Okay.
So I think if you're doing a beer, no matter what it is, 1 beer probably isn't pre-gaming.
Well, what if it's like a Mad Elf or like a Grand Hatton Flash? Is that pre-gaming?
Well, you're always either going to the game, in the game, or from the game with Grand Hatton Flash. What was I saying?
I don't remember.
I think maybe this is just like us, or maybe just craft beer drinkers in general. I feel like because the ABVs on most craft beers are so high anyway, like it's got to be for one beer to count as pre-gaming, it's got to be like one of those Avery beers that's like 19%, or like
Right.
a 120 minute
Right.
something like that, Utopias or whatever. And if you're pre-gaming Utopias, that's ridiculous.
You know what? I have five topics. I told you I had four topics, but I have five
Was
topics.
was that the fifth topic?
Uh, Not necessarily. It's Sierra Nevada is my fifth topic, but we'll get into that later.
Man, you're really on the ball today with like these teasers. I'm like riveted on these topics now.
Yeah, you
What could
know,
we possibly be talking about?
It's Timeless Teases. Tea
Do we
time
just
with
need a
Tyler.
transition screen or something?
Just see a bunch of T's pop up on the screen.
Teaser.
Tea time, tea time, tea time. Tea time with Tyler. Uh, but I'm drinking the Hype Track. It's really good. It's one of their limited releases. I really like the
Okay.
font. I think one of my favorite things that Love City has been doing is this kind of homage, or like this. They're really playing into like listening to stuff, right? Like they do Hype Track. They do a bunch of other things that have like this deep cut, right? Um, they have these beers that are like remind me of music, and I really enjoy that like thematic thing that they're
Okay.
doing, right? So Hype Track Pilsner, and I think it's good. It's like if you think about, you know, what do you need a Hype Track for? Again, it goes into pre gaming, right? Like, so this is a good like tailgate beer.
Is
And
that the reason?
what?
Is that the reason for the beer name?
Oh, I don't know. I have to ask them, but I just thought it was a great name, Hype Track. It just reminds me of getting ready for like a tennis match or like a baseball game, having very specific playlists put together. I remember, you know, being in high school and really being into what professional athletes were listening to before games. You know, I didn't always agree, but it was very interesting. Most
Yeah.
people were like putting like Drake or DJ Khaled onto it too. But I know I had a very specific song that was on all of my pregame like tracks.
Open.
Open letter.
No.
No, it was This Is Why I Rock, the Mims and Purple Popcorn.
This is why I rock. Wow. Wow. Yes, you're right. You did listen to that song a ridiculous amount.
That and Party Like a Rock Star remix was on my hype tracks a lot, you know.
You know, that one makes a little more sense. Or even like those the Travis Barker like
Can the drummer
crossovers
get
cut.
some?
What was that?
Are you talking about his legit album with a bunch of rappers, or are you talking about just his like Soldier Boy like cover? Remember he did crank that
Well,
Soldier Boy?
no, he had like the album that had basically it was just like a produced album, and then he would just come in and just
Rock.
drum over it.
Yeah, so that was called "Can the Drummer Get Some?" That was
Yes,
amazing.
yes.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I had definitely had a lot of those, but I mean, even that Soldier Boy cover, you know, like I can still see the video of just him like with a shitty ass
Yeah.
camera, like rocking out. I have to say, like the most obviously, like we're running through like technical difficulties as of late, so I think the most impressive thing as Connor comes running down the stairs is his ability to get that recorded so well. Like obviously, yeah, I get it, professional like musicians, but having recorded drums a couple of times and just like banging my head against the wall trying to understand what I'm going to do with the audio.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Yeah, I would say it does sound like it would provide like a challenge just because of the nature of drumming. Like, I feel like I don't know if it's the microphones have to be one of a certain quality and also need to be placed in a very specific spot.
Yeah, it's both. Like, right, you have to have the right quality, you have to have the right soundboard to be able to process all of that information, and you got to have it set up in the correct way. I mean, even getting beyond that, just even as an audio engineer, trying to figure out where you're moving the audio in like somebody's headphones, or if they have surround sound, right? Like, how do you actually place where that audio ends up when it gets digested into a system like that, right? It's just, yeah.
So I'm glazing over. Like, yeah, technical stuff. Usually
Yeah,
I'm into technical stuff,
yeah. I was
but
working with a
I've been
student.
over technical lately. So
He wanted to learn Photoshop, and so like we were like watching some videos, applying it because Photoshop is like one of my very I've used it a lot, but I've also like it's few and far between like the project. So I
yeah,
usually have to learn a new skill every time because I'm looking for a very specific use case. And so I'm like talking through him what I know and then what we're watching and telling him how it applies. And I look over and he's like, and not like being an asshole. Oh, I fell asleep because you were talking too much. Legitimately fell asleep on my ass, and I was like, bro,
that's worse. I
that's
think.
worse.
Like, it's like the podcast episode where you literally fell asleep on me.
Okay, in my defense, I just got my second COVID shot.
That's true. That was true. Yeah, you weren't feeling well. So and it was cold in the basement.
Yeah,
Actually, it was like in the summer. I don't know when that was.
it was cold
Anyway,
in that basement all the time, though.
how would you rate? What would you rate this Czech Pilsner from Love City?
This is actually really fucking good. I think I would rate it something around maybe 4.25, 4.5.
That's super solid.
Yeah, no,
That's
I
super.
mean it.
I think what I like and appreciate about Love City is like the diversity of the beers that they have, and they're all good. Like they're all just solid beers of different styles. Like a lot of times, either a brewery's only going to do a very specific thing, a whole bunch of that,
Mm,
and some of the other stuff might not be too great, or like it's just very inconsistent. I feel like Love City's just super consistent.
yeah,
I
and
appreciate.
I think it was something that I was thinking about on the way over here today too. Was just like, I don't know what it was, but there was a moment that like Love City's beers weren't like that amazing to me, but that's like changed as of late. Um,
Mhm.
and not as of late. It's just I've become more aware of like, oh, I really
You started drinking lagers, we get it.
no, I think that might be it actually. I,
Like you stopped only specifically drinking IPAs and
IPAs.
started drinking other
Yeah, so
things.
my palate got better, and therefore Love City got better. So I think that's actually really important to like talk about, and we do mention a lot is you got to give places time not only to get their process down, but you also got to give yourself time to reach that level of beer. And so when you look at Untapped,
Yeah,
how are you rating something, and how does that fall in line? So you can't use Untapped as a thing to say, oh, that's a good or bad beer based off of everybody's rating. But again,
yeah,
as you learn your rating, as you learn your friends' ratings, you get to start understanding, like, oh, you know, I know they tend to lean on IPAs and they rated that Pilsner really fucking shittily. But my other friend here who loved Pilsner says this was out of this fucking world. And I'm in
yeah,
between, so I'm pretty sure I might enjoy this.
yeah. I almost feel like what would honestly help Untapped is if they added like in the profile somewhere that's easy to see. Like you can put like your top three beer styles.
I almost feel like it's what would make me want to get the insider like feature for Untapped is if they
What?
did all of that work for you. If they said, this person has historically rated Pilsners like this. Therefore, on the weighted scale, their rating might more accurately globally reflect this.
Globally. No, I completely agree with that. If that was something they could do, I would kind of be in on it.
That
Other
is
than
something
just
in your
like
mouth.
rating a beer a 2.73 or something ridiculous like that,
Right.
which you can do as an insider. Is there anything else about beer? I guess you get discounts and deals and stuff, but like
You get a rate in tenth increments versus
yeah,
quarter
it's
increments.
ridiculous. I rate this beer a 2.8. It's like, really?
Really?
Yeah.
So like,
It's a 2.5.
all right, because it's gonna be that type of day, and I didn't eat that much. I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick.
Wow, it really is that type of day,
It's that
huh?
early. It's like 20 minutes in. So I will be back. Until then, talk to us about what you're drinking. Does this stay up on its own? It doesn't even get up that far. So elder pine. You know what? What? Tell me which elder pine it is, and then I'll be back.
All right. It is the barrel aged nut brown ale, and it is barrel aged on oh
Nuts.
barrel aged in bourbon maple syrup barrels.
I'm leaving.
He's bleeding? That's not good.
Connor, stop
So,
bleeding.
at any rate, yeah. So barrel aged nut brown. It's one of Elder Pine's many limited offerings. It's an English style brown ale, and this is really solid. Let's see what the ABV on this is. 6.8 ABV on this thing, and it's just like a really solid. I think nut brown ales. I don't know how many bourbon barrel aged nut brown ales I've ever seen, um, but I think a brown ale is like a perfect beer for barrel aging. So especially like it's maple barrel aged, so it's a little milder on the flavor. It's got more like a more caramely sweet type of aged taste to it rather than like your typical kind of sweet but more whiskey forward type flavor, more wood whiskey forward. This is a little more sweet and sugary, I would say. Um, but we had this. I guess I'll wait for Tyler to get back to kind of brag about Elder Pine because this gets into the Virginia trip. But Elder Pine is just one of those breweries that I like to go back to all the time. And we've talked about this before. One for the artwork on the cans, um, but also just because they always seem to have a wide variety of beers and they're always very good. Um, I can't think of like Elder Pine's always about. Tyler has a sweater on now. Wait, did you always have that sweater on?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I was just talking about how Elder Pine always does great beer and how they're like they have a whole lot of really solid pilsners, which is why I gravitate towards Elder Pine. But anyway, barrel aged nut brown ale, and we had this at Elder Pine
Nice.
on nitro,
Ooh.
and it was so smooth. I think you pick up the barrel aged flavor a lot more from the can,
Okay.
which makes sense. But at the brewery, man, it is just smooth. And I was trying to think like, have you ever had a brown ale barrel aged?
No, not that I could like think
Unique to
off like
me.
the top of my head, because brown ale is going to be one of those styles that like it's not few and far between, but it's
Yeah,
infrequently enough that like if something was stand out or like truly like unique, I think I would remember like, oh yeah, I definitely had that before. Because it's one of those
true,
things that I was like,
true.
if I had it on cask, if I had it on nitro, I think I would remember my feeling towards it, whether it be good or bad, right?
Right. And so I've had plenty of
Connor,
nitro
Connor.
brown ales. But plenty of nitro brown ales, what I haven't had is a barrel aged yet. And certainly not both. Um, so this one was really, really interesting to me. And it's an English style brown ale, so it's like with all English beer, they're kind of
Oh
drier.
yes, an ESB, right?
Um, well, that's extra special. This is just English style.
Extra special bitter, English style brown. What's the difference?
So so if you go to the bathroom in England and you have beer shits, is it called an extra special brown?
Fuck you. Fuck you for that one.
Well, that was a good one,
That
right?
was so good.
So Elder Pine, we can like kind of. I really like this. I think they gave us like a 4.75 or something.
What would it be, a 4.7 or a 4.8?
Well, it really depends on what your rules for rounding are. Technically,
4.8.
if you're at if you're at a 5, you still round down. If you're not at a 5, if you're like at a 5.5 or 5.6, you round up.
Ooh.
At a 5.5, like you get what I'm saying?
So what you're telling me is there's really no reason then to have tenth increments.
Exactly. It makes no sense because, like, seriously, how can you, with beer, as subjective of a thing as it is, and how, like, intricate of a thing it is, how can you really truly say, okay, this is a 3.8 and this one is a 3.7? Like, to me, the 0.25 increments are plenty.
But here, so I guess here's my other question because I don't know. So I can rate, on a tenth increment, but does that mean I no longer can rate something 7.5?
Hey, that's a good question.
Or am I only able to create a 0.05 category at the 20 and 70 marks?
See, now you're asking the real questions.
Because like otherwise it makes no sense. Like if I can rate something 4.75, but then I can't rate it a 0.35, right? Well, I'm gonna get mad there. Like, let me say something's a 0.15 if you want me to be so specific. You know what? That's no,
It
no.
is, if it's by tenths, is it by tenths or is it by like by
I thought
fives?
it was by tenths. I feel like I've seen that. Like,
Well, we have untapped acquaintances or friends who are insiders. We can just fact check this
we'll
later.
fact check it. I also have to comment that I have the fat cat above me looking down on me as we're recording. So today he is our producer. This show is produced by our Lord and Savior Lucifer. Um, and
We
Connor's
also
just Connor's over at the workbench trying to
He's just
earn his
putting
keep.
in putting in his 9 to 5
Yeah, he's trying to
over
earn his
there.
keep. Oh God,
Once again, like they're stealthy because I don't hear or see them,
that's awful.
which is pretty incredible. But
But
no, this kind of transitions us into this Virginia trip where basically what we did was, or what was that?
I would like to ask you because obviously on the way down you stopped at Elder Pine, and then
Yeah,
I just want to
yes.
ask you about your Elder Pine um, experience because that's one of those places that like we both loved Elder Pine, and then we finally both recently got the chance to go and visit this location. And I talked about it briefly before, but I just want to talk to you. I want to hear your thoughts of your Elder Pine experience, and
Yeah.
then continue
So
on
I think
to.
we had very different experiences due to the circumstances. And because like I thought about the fact that you mentioned, wow, it was really cold. We were outside, but the outside is really nice, right? When you were down there, and I was like, well, why would you go outside? Oh yeah, you had Connor with you, so you didn't want to be inside. And
No, we didn't
I was
have
like, okay.
Connor with us.
Oh really?
It was a day.
So
It was a day trip for a wedding.
oh okay, I was mixing it up because I'm like, why would they be outside? But it was like still warmer than it was like
Yeah,
it was freezing and it was like 30-mile-per-hour winds.
that's
So
awful.
there were crazy people sitting outside on the porch. But other than that, everyone was inside.
Okay.
So we were sitting at the bar inside, and it was just like really cool. We ordered from the food truck. Uh, Sandwiches are great from the food truck, and they just deliver it to your seat. You can order online. It's really
Oh
convenient.
wow.
But it was just a really cool vibe in there. I noticed that they always do a blend of the week, which is really cool. If I don't know if you noticed that it was on a tiny little chalkboard, like right above the taps, and this says blend of the week.
Oh,
And the blend of the week was their Mexican style lager with like a barrel aged beer. I
whoa,
can't remember which barrel age it was. It honestly might have even been the barrel aged like nitro nut brown.
nice.
And it was just like whatever it was
Now,
delicious.
did it create like a float experience, like a black and tan, or was it like just really blended?
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, I think it was just a barrel aged beer, but it wasn't the nitro.
Okay.
Um, but it was just delicious. So like all the time was really cool. We did flights. I think our whole weekend was around everything was going to be flight size, even if they didn't do flights. So we were doing 5 ounces of everything
Right.
for the most part. And so we were there for quite a while. Just kind of like a pit stop halfway between us and Richmond, which is
Yeah,
where we stayed the first night.
Richmond really isn't that far of a trip, so like it's really easy to just pick a place in Maryland and be like, okay, we're gonna stop here. Um,
It's pretty much what we did.
Before you get to Virginia, actually, I thought what you said about even the places that don't do flights, it
Yeah.
was just a 5 ounce or a 6 ounce, right? Um, which I guess I wanted to get your hot take on this. Like at Dock Street, they never did flights, right? And the
What's the
logic
reason for
behind
that?
it is, not wanting to disrupt the service, right? Not want to disrupt the like experience because of there's a lot going in peak times. You don't want to have to go through that whole like process. However, there's not a brewery that I know that wouldn't do tasters.
Yeah.
So one, out of the mind. Like not even like a taster in the 5 ounce sense, but even just like, ooh, can I try this? Can I try this? Can I try this? If I want to stop that person's more likely to buy a flight than they are to actually force you to do that. Now you are
Hmm.
forcing that person to be like, I haven't committed to a purchase yet. Convince me to make a
Right.
purchase. And then two, if they wanted to, they still could order that. Or you're gonna say, "Oh, I'm gonna limit you to you can't do five of those. You can do only three 6 ounces at a time." But at the same point, it's like, okay, cool. But I would never say, "Oh, you can't buy like two beers at a time." Or if you wanted to, like, I want one 16 ounce beer. Thank you for delivering that. By the way, before you move over to the next person, can I get one more 16 ounce?
Yeah.
I would say yes to
It's
that. So after I get my first three 5 ounces, I would be like, oh, by the way, can I also get these three 5 ounces? It's a separate purchase.
right. Yeah. It's like the idea of it. It's one of those things where it's like the idea kind of makes sense if you don't think about the logistics of like reality. And then when you think about it for half a second, you're like, oh, it's nothing different. Like
Right.
they're literally just doing it takes what 3 more seconds to transition between like 4 to 5 ounces versus 4 to 2 16 ounces. Like it's not that much of a difference.
Yeah, I mean,
And then like,
how many,
to not do taster sizes or small pours of things confuses me too. Because technically like you're charging more per ounce
right?
for
Like,
these small, so you're making more money off of
it
these,
doesn't
technically.
behoove you to not have that option. It doesn't behoove you as a consumer to make that choice.
True, except in our situation.
Right.
Like I was willing to pay more for the long haul because I wanted to try more.
And that's what you
So
should be doing. You should be charging the craft beer nerd more money.
yeah, are you agreeing with charging me more money?
I'm agreeing with charging the 35-year-old white bearded man with thick black glasses that's making over $95,000 a year.
Okay. At first I was like, why are you coming for Harry like that?
But I am with charging the average craft beer consumer more money to consume beer.
It is one of those things where like in general, passing costs off to the consumer is shitty. it's not so shitty in a situation where like it's craft whatever. In that sense, like it's kind of like whatever. Like you're paying for the quality anyway. What's the difference between paying $6 a pint or seven for that for that added cost? Like it doesn't really matter. You're still it not to say you're overpaying, but like it's kind of one of those weird things of like art, like craft anything is art, and so you pay for the art on top of just like the commodity that it is.
Did you like shit down here? Why does it smell, bud?
He just gasificated you.
He left me an ESB.
You hate to see it,
But
or you'd rather see it before you step in it, though.
right. Continue on with your trip. I'm sorry, we got like a little sidetracked there, but I really do want to hear about your experience because
Yeah.
you made it to
So
Finch, and I'm just excited to get to that part. Don't skip over steps, but I just wanted to let you know what I wanted to hear about.
all right, well, you don't have to wait too long. No, I'm kidding. You have to wait a little bit. So we went to Elder Pine was like midday lunch, late lunch because we left like in the early afternoon, like 12-ish,
Right.
whatever. Elder Pine for a while, drove down to Richmond, got there around dinner time, and we stopped at the Answer in Richmond. Now the Answer you was one that you named. And had did you get to the Answer?
No, because they didn't make their post very well, like the script of we are closing early at on Labor Day, blah 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 blah. It was like a hidden post. So we get there and it closed right as we got there. So I could look in and see people cleaning up. There are still people outside drinking beer.
That's the worst. Because let me tell you, the Answer,
Is the truth?
one of the truth is actually a new brewery location in Lancaster that took over the old cartel location that's just opened last Friday, apparently. The Answer, now the Answer I like just off the fact that the founder and like the guy who started it was like an old Vietnamese guy who was like big in craft beer, like an international name, which was super interesting to me. So like it's Vietnamese owned, and so they just had like Vietnamese food on the menu, which is like Vietnamese bar food fusion, which is dope at a brewery. And they have an arcade, and like their spot's really cool, right? Um, so we get there, we do the flight thing, and there was one beer. Now, what I did get was my next beer when I finish this is my last beer from the Answer
Fuck you.
from the 6-pack I took. So I will be sharing that. But they had a fruit beer there that, for Alyssa's money, was the best beer of the trip. And you know me, so you know me with fruit beer and sours and stuff like this. Like I'll dabble, but it's not really my lane, right? I've had so many good fruit beers on this trip.
I was gonna say because Finch is really good for that. You know, I think one beer that comes to mind when I think about fruit beers that like really stood out because I'll try it. It's not my favorite. You know, I like my Dreckers, I like my Imprints, but I really enjoy the Daily Serving series by Trillium. So I'm actually really intrigued by this.
Yes. So this was called and they do different combinations, but this one was passion fruit, lychee, Snow White, a fruit beer with passion fruit and lychee.
Because I'm a slut for a lychee martini.
Well, it's also got white chocolate.
I mean, it all sounds good.
It was I mean, I rated it a 4.5, which for any fruit beer is might as well be like a 5 plus.
Wait a minute. Why were you mad?
Why was I mad?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't mad.
You just said irate.
Wow. So that was a great episode, guys. We really enjoyed it. Hope you guys can tune in next time. Um, like that beer was really good, and that kind of started the trend of really good fruit beers throughout the weekend.
Okay.
So we like the answer was great. I picked up a 6 pack of the beer I'm gonna get in a second when I finish this,
Wait a minute.
and I'll talk about that one because it's pretty solid. It's not like blow your mind out the water, but it's really good.
So, what was the question?
Well, the question was, what happens when you allow minorities to own a brewery?
It's great. Whoa.
And the answer is
Great.
it's great. It's amazing. So yeah, we stayed overnight then in Richmond, got some brunch, and then we hit the Vale. So we hit the Vale location that's kind of like in there. It kind of feels like a Fishtown-y type area, but less residential
Okay.
than Fishtown. Like an old industrial area that got turned into breweries and restaurants, basically, is kind of more so what it is. Um, and this Vale location was massive. It would be the Scott's extension or Scott's edition.
So my bad. I think I got it flipped. I think we were trying to go to the Vale instead of the answer, and I always get that a little confused
because now we were at the answer. Now we're going to the Vale.
Yeah. So flip flop. I was trying to go to the Vale originally. Continue.
Okay, so we're at the Vale. We're at the Vale. Now, this is the Vale Scott's edition. They have a downtown location,
but the Scott's
which we didn't go to.
It does remind me of that, like Fishtowny. Like, there's a lot of bars, a lot of restaurants, old and
yeah, exactly.
Because that's where we went to Star Hill or whatever, Star Barn.
Exactly. It's literally right next to Star Hill is here. The Vale's like behind it or next or like on the around the corner. So we go to the Vale. We're there for hours because that's where we finally met up with Harry. He drove up from up to Richmond, and we were hanging out at the Vale. So the Vale, they don't do flights, but they do 5 ounces, right? So just pounding 5 ounces. They have a crazy selection, including this really good rice lager. And they have like a Japanese like kitchen or Korean kitchen inside of the Vale that does, I guess, really good food. We didn't eat there, unfortunately, but the Vale, like it's kind of like one of those things where you hear about a place for a long time and then you finally get there to the location, and the location actually kind of like lives up to the expectation.
Right.
Because it was just kind of like grandiose.
Yeah.
Massive bar, like huge, massive bar, huge seating area. They like have a whole restaurant inside of it essentially. Like it was just a really cool. It was just a really cool spot. And yeah, their Japanese rice lager, I gave it a 4.75 called Japanese Denim. That was so good. And I've never seen a bar whose menu was on projectors. Like their menus, their bar area is so big that their menu, so that you can read it and it fills the space, is literally 2 projectors. They're projecting like a movie
I
the
love it.
menu. So that's the veil. Like um I guess like it's weird. There's nothing specifically notable about the veil other than it's just really good because and the fact that there's like a whole restaurant inside of it. But like as far as like the brewery aspect of it, like it's very, very good, very, very large. Don't miss out on it, but like I can't just give you like a specific thing that I can remember that's like, damn, like I remember this because it is at the end of the day just another brewery that's just a really good one.
Okay.
There's nothing unique going on with it in my mind, at least.
But it's definitely like a must visit.
Oh yeah, I would definitely say that.
No,
Um,
that's noteworthy.
yeah,
That's real. You know, I think you we've had conversations about like cookie cutter, like what just is like copy paste repeat in terms of breweries, where there are other breweries that are just stand out based off of like locations and just pure size and magnitude, and then you know how does this actually stack up to breweries that are just quality. And I think this sounds like it's just a really good quality brewery, but the size of it also is kind of impressive in like a moderate stance, you know.
yeah, I would even go ahead and say like this in terms of like the space that we were in, like it is grandiose. Like it's definitely impressive. Like
Right.
the space itself is impressive. The beer matches the impressiveness. Like it's very impressive. But like I think it's more of a if we weren't who we were and we don't have the thoughts about the industry that we do,
Right.
like if we were just two bearded white guys with the glasses that
Right.
you were describing earlier, like we probably would think the veil's the best thing on earth.
Okay.
But the quality's there. It's just like the answer was special because of like its roots
Right. The story
and
behind it, you know.
that fusion.
And it's not that the
Elder
veil is.
Pine is yeah, and Elder Pine is just something that like that we have that's like familiar to us.
I mean, but
So like
they
there's
also have
something
all those.
special and unique and notable to us about these
Yeah,
places.
but Elder
The
Pine also
Vineyard's
has
just
those pine
it's like
trees.
the other half is good. No, just kidding.
Yeah, Elder Pine also has like the actual pine trees that like stand out, you know, in the
Yeah,
actual place.
it's a unique location. Like this place isn't I wouldn't call it unique,
Yeah.
the Vale. Like it's just a really great they took a cookie cutter place and didn't make it cookie cutter. They actually added some stuff to it. But at the end of the day, like
Right.
there's nothing unique besides, well, I mean, I guess besides the restaurant that's in it. But
Yeah. Yeah. So I would compare it to like, for instance, on the opposite side, like Rheingeist, right? Rheingeist is some really good aged beers, and for that they're special. Like that's what I think they're really good at. Otherwise, their everyday beer isn't like the most impressive thing in the world, but their location on over the Rhine and Cincinnati is impressive because it's this old industrial building. It's fucking like cathedral esque, like huge fucking like floor to ceiling space. It's just fucking massive. And then they go upstairs, and then like you go to the roof, and it's even like it's a nice little spot there, and that's a incredible like experience. But again, I'm not going to that experience and thinking, oh, let me just do a bunch of like fucking aged barrel stouts, right? I'm probably going
here,
pilsners, lagers, IPAs at best. Um, so I think there's something to be said about like where's this middle ground? What are you going for? Um, no, that's really interesting. What was the next
yeah.
place?
So what was that? What was what?
What was the next place?
Okay, so we grabbed in around the corner at this Italian place that does like brick oven pizzas. Pretty damn good. We tried to get into the brewery that was down the street from the Vale.
Yeah,
And the reason I'm not remembering it is because they closed early for a party and we couldn't get a beer there,
yeah. I think that was
which
probably
is
one of the ones that I tried to
unusual.
stop into and just again, Labor Day weekend for some reason. I mean, not for some reasons. Labor Day weekend, like the whole point's not to work.
Yeah, it's a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. That brewery was called Vazen,
Oh my god, yeah, I wanted
probably.
to go there so bad.
Yeah. So it like we got in and we literally got into the place. We were able to use the restroom, and then we walked up to the bar and they're like, "Yeah, we close at whatever it was, like
That was
6."
like
And
the
it was 5:55.
that was like the one time we went to Lancaster to record with you guys, and we went to Luca, and Luca closed for a private party. I was like, out of all fucking days today, and we were at an Airbnb around the corner.
You picked that Airbnb too, like, ooh, this is near Luca.
Yeah. All right. How
Well,
about the next spot at
just
IP?
so you know, Luca doesn't have pizzas anymore.
That's crazy to me. I gotta pee again. It's one of these episodes.
We're gonna take an intermission because I gotta grab my other beer.
All right. Logo screen. All right, what do you got there?
I was ready for 3, 2, 1, G's. This is Red Lager Redemption. And for all you game fans out
Red Dead.
there, it's got the Red Dead Redemption logo with a hot face. And this is from the answer. It's a red lager. Who would have thought? 5.5 ABV. So like right, nice easy drinker. Look how beautiful that is right there.
Beautiful.
Mm. And you know what? Damn, that's good. I have a special place in my heart for red anything beers, red lagers, red IPAs, red ales, Irish reds, red lager redemptions, everything. I just there's something about like I guess for me, I think this is probably my preferred like roast level for malt
Okay.
is like the caramel roast, like a dark caramel roast, which I think is why Marzens are probably like my favorite style.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, this is a really solid beer. This is from the answer. Get to the answer.
Yes. Yes.
So as I was saying, back before we took our quick break, we eventually made it to Star Hill.
Oh, nice. What do you think?
Star Hill was cool. The verticality of it. Now, when we were there, because it's like it's like Star Hill Brewery and rooftop or something like that.
Yeah.
So like we didn't get up to the rooftop because it was freezing cold at nighttime.
Ah, okay.
We got there, but I imagine that's probably pretty impressive. But it was really cool. We were watching the playoff game in there.
Ah.
We were drinking, so that was fun. We were as we were riding our way to misery the next day.
Yeah,
But
seriously.
that night was fun. Now, the beer was decent. I think it's kind of hard to compete with the Veil once, especially if you're sitting there all day.
Yeah.
I think I think the thing that the Veil really does well is like they have a vast variety. They have a lot of interesting styles and combinations of flavors. And I think Star Hill's a little more straightforward with that. They did have though, if I can find it, I think it was a barrel aged Doppelbock,
Wow.
and that was tasty. But Star Hill was cool. So we ended there the night at Star Hill, drove down to Newport News Airbnb, and then the next day, this is where things get kicked off for sure.
What
Um,
I will say though before we move forward, because I've also been to Star Hill, I think what makes Star Hill noteworthy to me is that they have a like they much like a rotational like beer series or like an occasional beer series or whatever you would call it.
okay.
They always choose a new partnership every month. I think it is that they like donate to, and there's a specific beer that if you purchase, like that's where like the profits will go to. So it's like if you get this beer, the profits go to this like LGBTQ
Okay.
like organization every month. And I think that's what I ended up liking. And again, if you compare it from the Veil to that, much different. Again, I didn't get the chance to go to these pillars of craft beer, but that was the standout behind them. So like when the other breweries, when we were talking about, have standouts with beer,
Mhm.
this was like venue wise. Yes, I think they do music and stuff like that there too. If you saw that wall on the stairs, there's a wall of like posters, like music posters.
I saw that there were posters on the wall, but I didn't go up the steps,
Right.
so I didn't take
So
notice.
like that's all like different concerts.
Okay.
So they're like musically like a very like music focused brewery. But on top of that,
Okay.
it's I mean I have a shirt. So like again, going back to the whole joke about this episode, Virginia is for beer lovers. The Virginia is for lovers, right? They have a shirt there that says "Love is love," right? And so like they're very like intentional with the fact that they are like allies in that capacity at least. And I think that's where I found my appreciation for this brewery is that they are very like mission focused, and I think looking at what we're trying to do, that's very like falls in line. So when we were talking about trying to figure out what stands out with like the Veil versus like the Answer, which has this very like minority owned like type of thing, and but what stands out of like the Answer rather than just like them having a restaurant with inside them, that's where Star Hill like actually stood out to me. It was like, oh, we are mission focused. Now,
Okay.
yeah, now I'll let you continue.
Well, that's greatly appreciated because I don't know if it's just like we did get there in like the last hour, right? So it was kind of like well, it wasn't like a get out type of feeling. It was like, hey, we got around, and then last call was coming up right after. So it's like
Yeah, right.
that's something in the rush. Maybe I missed that aspect of it because I wasn't sitting and kind of digesting. But I appreciate that because that really does actually make a big difference to me. I mean, I think um, the beer is what the beer is, but
Right, exactly.
you can always stand out doing those types of things. And like there were very solid beers that they had. As I'm getting back to my untapped, like they had a wheat heavy that I really liked.
Ooh, we heavy, right?
Called Old Fuss and Feathers. That was really good. So
Really good.
wheat heavy and the Doppelbock I equally enjoyed, and a red IPA. So like they have solid beers, like straightforward, but they're not doing like something crazy like the Veil with a fruit beer or crazy hop combinations, but it's just really straightforward but solid. So
Okay.
um, I appreciate that now, especially hearing about kind of like the business side and the ethics side of it.
Right.
Like they give me a better appreciation for it.
Which I thought
So
yeah, I definitely thought you would appreciate that. That's why I wanted to bring it up because I think it was again not having that time to like really sit and digest it. And you know me, I was like shooting the shit with the bartender for a long time. Even though we were sitting out front, like I was every time I went in for beer, I was like, okay, so
well, speaking of shooting the shit with the bartender, this is kind of how the story's gonna progress here because
oh, because of Elder
when we
Pine,
were,
right?
we were at Elder Pine, I had my black barrel and flow shirt on,
Right.
and the bartender just looks at me and he's like, "It's a nice shirt." I was like, "Oh, thanks." And he's like, "So, like you been?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I started, I started slipping in. Oh, one of the collaboration beers last year with Love City. Go check that out.
Gang gang, nigga. I
Um,
mean,
but he's like, "Oh, what do you?" We're like, "Yeah, we're from the Philly area or whatever." Um, and he's like, "Oh, what brings you down here?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, we're going south of Virginia, to check out some breweries." And then he just started like, "Oh, well, like, gotta hit the Answer, gotta hit the Veil, gotta hit Triple Bottom, gotta hit
triple
in
bottom.
the Newport News area, Woozle Finch." And we'll get to Triple Bottom. They were our last stop in the trip.
That
Little Bottom.
that's
Huh?
interesting. So there's a triple
Wait,
bottom.
wait, 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 not triple. See, okay. Thank you for being confused because triple crossing, not triple bottom. And I made this mistake multiple times already. Because I had triple bottom in my head the whole time because Philly, right?
No, I
And
was
so the
like
triple crossing.
mentally broke down with how that would even work. Like, how do you get so far in a process that you have the same name as another brewery?
Oh, there's some crazy second location you had no idea existed.
No, that's where my other part was. I was like, whoa, they're much bigger than I ever imagined.
No, triple crossing in Richmond.
I've heard of them, yeah.
Triple crossing. Okay. Anyway, the big takeaway from that conversation was go to Ouzelfinch, please, for the love of everything, go to Ouzelfinch. So we packed into the car and we all went to Ouzelfinch. Now Ouzelfinch is you drive through a beach town, right? And then you're literally like it's Fort McHenry, I think, Fort McSomething. It's like on the shore. It's literally driving through what feels like a military base. You drive along the moat next to the fort, and then this old brick building off to the left is the brewery. It's so remote. And when you walk in, well, they have like a little outdoor area with a little food truck there, so we knew at least we were in the right place.
Right.
You walk in, so what the bartender told me and what I came to know is like, so Ouzel Finch kind of has like two sides to it, where what they're really like good at are these crazy fruit sour beers. And then they have something called like Nose Brewing Project, which kind of does more traditional stuff. So they have like this lane of like crazy wild sour ales and sour beers, and then they have like really solid lagers
Okay.
like the other side. So you have these two sides where it's just like super crazy fruit beer and then boom, real crisp pilsner at the same time, and they're both like top notch. So we were there. I checked in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I checked in 13 beers at Ouzelfinch, right? And I don't think any of them were below. There's one at a 375, and everything else was like 4.25, 4.5, 4.75,
Now this is
a couple five.
this is
Like,
when I recognized that where you were, because I was like ignoring your check-ins for a while, and then I was like, I don't know what made me think, you know what? Let me see where he's at today. And I was like, Ouzel Finch. I was like, this motherfucker.
so we were there, and the crazy thing was like you sent me that text about start this group chat because I have things to say, and I tried to start the group chat while we were there, and like the text just failed. I guess because we were so freaking remote. So I sent it way later, but so the highlights from Ouzelfinch were they have a fruit beer series called Party Dinosaur, and this one was Tangerine Lulo. This was a 5, and it's a fruit beer, like a smoothie fruit beer, like imprint type beers
Like
that they do.
Dunker-esque, yeah.
But to me, like better, way better,
Okay.
in my opinion. Because you know me, like I'm not really into that type of thing, but like these beers are absolutely ridiculous. This one was a sour with tangerine puree, lulo puree, banana puree, vanilla bean. Crazy. You got, and then on the other hand, my other 5 from there was a red ale that was on the opposite side on the Nos Nose Brewing Project. A red ale 5. So you have like this dichotomy of just like it's literally something for everybody there is what it comes down to, I think. And the fact that it's all at the level that it's at is like astounding to me.
Right.
Um, and then it's just like their Marzen was really good. Like they had a Marzen that was delicious. Like their Hefeweizen was crazy good. And then you get into like sour. They had this pumpkin pie sour pumpkin ale.
Oof.
Have you had a sour pumpkin
I
ale in
have
your
not,
life?
but it sounds so good.
Sour ale with pumpkin puree, cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, graham cracker, and vanilla bean. So it's literally a pumpkin pie sour. And then you have like a doppelbock that was really good. So it's just like two two, like there's a line and it's like, here's all the crazy fruit stuff. And then, oh, but by the way, we do great lagers too.
Hmm.
So it was just kind of, it was a little mind blowing going through all these berries. And then I'm like, oh, this one's good. Well, this one's good. Wait, this one's good. Oh my God, this one's good too. And then it was just like 2.5 to 3 hours of this is good.
Oh, that's great.
It's great. Plus, like I like the Ouzel Finch like name comes from like a pretty like funny like quirky history lesson type of deal. That's
Okay.
kind of ridiculous. So it's hilarious as a name too. And they have like a little like historical plaque type of deal that like describes it like on their building, which is hilarious.
That's amazing though. That's like what you look for, right?
Exactly. So like everything about this place is just like everything about this place is just awesome. And that's even besides the fact that it's literally at the beach.
That's the
So like
most amazing point.
you know what I mean? Like it's at the beach, but it's remote if you don't like people.
I hate
And
people.
it has every type of beer. Just
I'll be
10 out
honest.
of 10, 12 out of 10.
I have to admit, like hearing Marzen shocked me. Shocked me.
Dude, like you look at the beer list and you're just like, what's happening here? Because you have everything's on tap, right? But then you have beers that are saying Ouzel Finch, and then half of them are saying Nost, and they're also different. And it's just like, would you? I've okay. How far would you trust an imprint lager of any kind?
No. I can actually answer that. I've seen imprint loggers and said, you know what, I'm not gonna try it.
Exactly. But like when you're at a place that does flights or does 5 ounce pours or whatever, you'll take a chance on something like that, right? And I think here it was just like we were told it was because the recommendation from Elder Pine specifically mentioned the fact that they do all these different beers and it's so good. You know what I mean? So like that place was like hidden gem status to me because honestly, I didn't hear of it before. So it's like it was all new to me.
No, I feel like you definitely had to hear about Ouzel Finch because that's one of Hops and Charlie's favorite breweries.
So you okay, you're right. You're right. And now that you mention that, I'm like, hmm. I thought maybe you could so hear me out. So like I thought when I heard Ouzelfinch, the only reason it sounded familiar was because I was just conflating it with Thistlefinch.
Right.
So I was like, okay, Ouzelfinch. Okay, I don't really know Ouzelfinch. But like other than that reference that you just mentioned, I never heard of it
Right.
or
Like
don't know much about them.
no reason to, but like I remembered that specifically from the Hops and Charlie episode. So when I saw that you guys were at Ouzel Finch, that's why I was like, you fuck.
It was so
Yeah.
good.
Um
So that's two glowing uh, referrals for Ouzelfinch that you need to get down there.
yeah. So uh, I want to know how many other breweries that you got a chance to go to because then to help wrap this up because I know you got to eat. I am definitely on the bad end of the spectrum of not eating. Um, and I can't remember my fifth. I have the four topics that I want to power through then. But I want to
Okay.
hear more about
I,
this
I can
fucking
power through the
macro
rest of
trip.
these because until we get to the end, to the last brewery, it was like
Okay.
So um, and that's the thing. The one I can't even recall you. It was like fermentary. It was a fermentary, like coastal fermentary or something
Oh
like
wow.
that. Um,
So funky.
The beers were decent, but the atmosphere wasn't great. They had some weird cornhole tournament happening that kind of killed the vibe.
What's wrong with
Um,
cornhole? Sorry.
Nothing, but like when it's a league and you can't participate, it's kind of weird
That's stupid.
taking
Yeah.
up that space. Um, So that was okay, but I'd give it a fair shot again. Then we went to Tradition, which is kind of like in the middle of Newport News. Um, Tradition does like does like frozen beer slushies with their fruited goes, which was ridiculously delicious somehow.
Really? Okay.
They also did like a honey brown ale, which was which was delicious, and their doppelbock was very good. I believe their Marzen was okay as well. So like they were pretty good, but nothing like too super standoutish.
Okay.
And then that was our Newport News journey. The next day we started heading back up north and we stopped back in Richmond. We visited the Arthur Ashe
That's nice.
memorial site
Oh, the
monument.
memorial.
Um, and then we went to eat and then we went to Triple Crossing. Triple Crossing before we left. Now Triple Crossing,
The truth.
get to Triple Crossing.
Okay. I just need to get to Richmond. Like, let's be honest here.
So Richmond has like actually like a crazy beer scene,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Like
Crazy.
like you have the beer brewers we talked about, like the Veil, you have the answer. Triple Crossing, like their West Coast IPA, they had a couple they had like a Falcon Punch. I think it's called Falcon Punch or
Falcon
Falcon Smash.
Punch.
Or both actually. Yeah. Delicious. The West Coast Falcon Smash was amazing. That I brought that home in cans, but it's gone. Um, they were basically just like playing vinyls the whole time.
Okay.
So the entire time we were there, they were playing ATLiens, the entire
Nice.
album.
Nice.
So that was really awesome. Uh, really solid beer, very good beer. I highly recommend it. They had a Pilsner that was delicious as well. So they have varied selection, very good. Highly recommend Triple Bottom. And we were just at a friend's place.
Triple
Triple
crossing.
Crossing. Go to Triple Bottom as well if you're in Philly. Triple Crossing. And we were at a friend's house the other night for like a game night. And this is the guy who runs the kitchen at Trogs. He had the 7th anniversary beer from Triple Crossing.
Get
That might be the
into this
best beer
game
I've ever had
night.
in my
What the
life.
fuck? We're gonna have an off-camera conversation about this, but no, continue. 7th anniversary. That's crazy.
7. It was so ridiculous. It was like a barrel aged stout, unreal, like absolutely unreal. Barrel aged imperial stout.
Okay.
So that was that. Um, and that was pretty much the trip. You know, I checked in. I got my checking in done. I got 65 beers checked
Ridiculous.
in 3 days.
Hold up. I have to check a note because at that point I think I was 9 breweries in. And you might have been like 19.
Well, breweries. I had a lot of beers at the same breweries, so like I would have to check.
Right. No, but I mean I was
You were trying
yeah. So
in this
since
moist
farm truck,
January that you're
I
in
think I'm probably at 15 now breweries.
for the month.
Yeah.
15 breweries for the month. Uh, if
Well,
I can,
but so what I was gonna do is I'm gonna power through a couple of these things real quick because I gotta use the
please
bathroom
do.
again. So I'm just gonna try to get out of it. But talking about Richmond and its beer scene, so Richmond's also one of those places that you can buy beer at the gas station, right? So at the Wawa near like that industrial, the Vale, the Star Hill, like Star Barn, Star,
Yeah, yeah.
all that stuff. Went to the Wawa to get gas prior to like leaving, and I was like, okay, let me see if I can just like grab a couple of beers while I'm here. And it was like very lackluster. Like experience. So I would love to learn about Virginia's, or at least Richmond's, distribution process, because it just feels like it's not up to par for the beer that they have there. So that was the disappointing thing. But moving forward, so I love City today. Made some really cool connections with some Philly-based sports podcasting that operate within the same building. Um, but just again, really good time. Got this beer. Just again, for I had 2 beers and bought a 4-pack, and they charged me $16. It's
All right.
you just got to always support Love City, and we'll always support Love
You
City.
really do.
Yeah. Sierra Nevada was the other thing I was going to bring up. And Sierra Nevada, I'm reading Ken Grossman's book, and it's just really hard to get through. I think, it's one of those things, being one of the early pioneers of that era, and just like what's crazy is he manufactured a lot of like the original facility by himself. He made a lot of the original mills. A lot of the refrigeration was done by himself. He did all of the like systems for that. But at the same time, like, this is a guy that went to college, didn't really enjoy college, dropped out, but like wasn't in hundreds of $1,000s of debt from like doing so. Like, there's just a lot going on that, like, oh, you can attempt something like this when, like, just a lot of his story doesn't resonate. So I can see like how, like, oh, this is a book you should be reading if you're into craft beer, and how being black in craft beer, you start reading this book and it's just like, get the fuck out of here. I'd rather read about like Crowns and Hops and like Two Locals and like all these other things versus like this stupid
Down
like,
Home, Weathered Souls.
right, like there's nothing that even kind of acknowledges like the privilege that he existed in, and to be able to just like laissez-faire go from like this nonchalantly. And it's just like, when he got into actually,
sorry, go ahead.
when he got into actually like some of the logistical and like some of the actual hurdles that made sense for him to go into. Oh, we thought it was gonna be like 50,000. What we thought it was gonna be like 25,000. It ended up being 50,000, which ended up being 100,000, and having to borrow money. But like, no banks would allow him to get like loans, and so he had to borrow all this money from like friends and family. But then to even think about like, oh, I got like hundreds of thousands of dollars from friends and family. It's just like, bro, like, so. It's been a hard book to get through. I'm trying for a book a month, and this is gonna really test me in getting to the one book in January mark.
You know why it's testing you? It's because they're also attempting moist January. If you just went wet, you could get through this real quick.
Yeah, because I wouldn't remember any of it. Went to Myers yesterday. Just because we got up at a gym. I don't want to talk about the gym that we were at. It starts with the P.
The PF, maybe?
Yeah, the PF.
I've had my fair share of PFs.
And so like, we're at Planet Fitness, it's fun and all, like, but I finally hit like it would have been chest and triceps, and when I was doing my back and biceps day, Hannah was like, she the only bench that she could get at for her like rows that she was doing was next to the squat rack.
So the Smith machine.
God, that bothers me. And she goes, oh, this is weird. Like, you don't have range of motion? Yeah, it's doing a lot of work for you? It's not a true representation of what you need to be doing? The fact that someone's coming here for a 45 plate because there's only like 2 45 plates on each machine? Yes, no, this is shit.
I'm glad you experienced this now. You know.
And I tried to warn prior, but I was like, you know what? Fine, whatever. So it's
listen, at $10 a month, sometimes you just got to deal with it. You know?
Exactly.
Being honest,
that's neither here nor there. But like, she was leaving today to Baltimore. There was a bunch of like circumstances that led us to drink yesterday, and we went to Myers. Randomly walked into Myers. It was a bingo night. It was a lot of fun. I'm fucking old and love bingo now, apparently. But they had a mixed 4-pack of Saucony Creek in the fridge.
Really?
Yeah. So like, that was a pretty cool highlight. And then like, the last thing I want to talk about before I run to the bathroom for the 19th time is Two Locals should be opening up soon. Don't know when, but soon. They made a post about it again today. So very excited. Really want to get there. And when I was at Love City, they were like, "Hey, Two Locals is opening up soon." I was like, "I already fucking know."
Oh, that is it. Soon. So soon, you mean it was supposed to be last month?
Seriously, I'm just like, you guys are just stop putting dates on it. Like, if I learned one thing about opening up a brewery is say opening soon. Don't say when, just opening soon.
Opening soon.
Yeah.
The most description we'll give is like a quarter of the year.
Yeah.
Opening first quarter of 2027.
Exactly. But do you have anything else?
Yeah, just this was a lot of fun. We gotta get together for podcast non and related and unrelated stuff
Yes.
just to hang out.
Yes.
So let's make that happen, and this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Love you. I'm glad you had a great birthday weekend. I'm very excited. We have some things in the works. Hopefully going to be making the first official Alternative Blacks podcast beer that isn't a collaboration. It will be our own recipe. So we need to jump on a call like ASAP to try to like logistically figure that out. I have a couple ideas. I'm going to text you my thoughts on it. But it's giving like maybe like a Bach or something like that, because it should be coming out in Aries season, and I feel like something with that like kind of mentality would make sense.
Okay, all right. I mean, yes, that's one way to look at it. You are correct.
Yes, but we'll figure it out. But yeah. Until next time.
Peace.